Charles, with you, social intelligence. I just wanted to talk about what it is and why is it important.
Well, when I think about social intelligence as you're framing it, I think about how we use the wisdom of how relationships work to invest in generating those relationships so they're there on the good days and what we all know is inevitable, the bad days, the really bad days. And just as importantly, I would say even more importantly, so those relationships are there when others have the really bad days.
Oh.
That we are smart enough, committed enough, invested enough that we have those relationships in place so that together we can stand or maybe barely stand when we need to for that adaptability and that resilience, and especially now what we know is a very, very uncertain time.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'm picking up on this, Charles, is that there's like a two-way dimension to this. So like, as an example for everybody here, like all of you are not here just to serve me. I should give and contribute as well. It should be a mutual exchange of connection, value, relationship. That's helps to weave the fabric, if you will, when it comes to trust.
Yeah, well, Larry, I think very few of us, both on the stage and in our communities, want to know more people who have a relationship with us just to get stuff from us.
An extraction
situation. So if I were to advocate or we were to teach that the best way to build relationships is figure out who can we get stuff from and spend time with them and get it, we just become jerks. And I think we all know exactly how much we want to stand up, put ourselves at risk, lose some sleep to help jerks on their bad days. And so if we really have social intelligence, we fundamentally approach that commitment with generosity.
Oh. And a mutual exchange of value, connection.
Ideally a mutual exchange, Larry, and maybe, if we're really good at it, a lot of generosity.
A lot of generosity.
It starts with that investment in the relationship, right? I'm not going to be friends with Z unless I do something that, hey, she's awesome, I want to hang out with her. So it requires that someone initiate that investment, and most people reciprocate. If they don't reciprocate, it's like dinner, right? If I invite Larry to dinner 5 times, you never invite me back, well, you're not really a friend, right? So, but you've got to initiate that. And when we think about, like in the olden days, the 7 deadly sins, those are really about selfishness. But community, social intelligence is about virtue, about giving to others. And once we give to others, we often get that in return manyfold.
Life is truly an exchange system, and I really believe that we all bring something to the table. And if you're sitting at a table that no one is bringing anything, then that's the wrong table.
I also, when you talked about investment, though, it requires prioritization because we're all so busy. So, you know, you talked about on the bad days versus the good days. Well, a lot of times we're just so busy, we don't have time to have the lunches or the coffees or reach out. And the next thing you know, 6 months has gone by. And so I love this reminder to really focus on that because that's what's really important.
And actually with that, Z, I would assume that with the prioritization, there can be a tension that can come into play with, well, how do you? Like, I really want to invite you back over to dinner, but I'm just too busy. But you can invite me back over, you know? So that's selfishness, that's what that is right there. But like, how do we navigate the tension?
Well, let me speak to that, Larry.
Yeah.
You know, I think that if you don't have time to spend time with the people you want to spend time with, then my guess is you're thinking too big. Walking around a Google campus counts. Grabbing coffee and sitting next to a lake count. Now, knowing you, it's probably more sophisticated than that. There might be noodles involved, right? But if what you have time for, to spend the time with the people you want to spend time with, is a walk around a lake for 20 minutes, that counts. And I'm a firm believer that we each have, to my last count, about 50 weeks a year. Am I right about that? If we're not spending an hour of that week, every week, with people we want to know better, who we already know or want to know, then we're not investing in the part of our lives that's going to make our lives work on both the really good days and the really bad days.
But I agree with Z, there's got to be a prioritization. So one of the great management gurus of the 20th century, Peter Drucker, advocated that every individual and every organization have a do not do list. Write down, prioritize the stuff that you're doing every year, knock out the bottom 2/3, right? And so what I've done is really be very clear about saying no to lots of things that seem like they're fun, but aren't really valuable enough to, for example, invest in relationships. So making time to invest in those relationships. By the way, as a card-carrying introvert, I can spend 12 hours alone and not talk to anybody, but I realize that's not effective in terms of thriving. It's not effective as a leader right? So you've got to actually invest in those relationships by saying no to other things.
Yeah, because I guess with this, I just think about time. Time is always a depleting resource, is how I think about it. We all have the same amount of time. How we use our time is the kicker, is the idea with that. Yeah. Charles, one thing I wanted to circle back with you is wrote down here the power of community, and just getting your thoughts on that.
Well, we've touched on it, Larry. So I define community in my work as a group of people who share mutual concern for one another. I don't care if you work at the same company. I don't care if you wear the same clothes. I don't care if you like the same bands. You might. I don't care. All I care about is after you've spent time together, are you leaving, perceiving, hopefully accurately, that other people care about you? And as we've already touched on, there's reciprocity there. And in my experience, everybody has really, really, really bad days, like hospital days. Like, wonder if the kids are going to make it days. And the power of community is we don't handle that alone. And a couple times in this conversation already, we've talked about being overwhelmed. That's how I'm interpreting it. By overwhelmed with time, being overwhelmed with health challenges, being overwhelmed with the changes of life. In my experience, all of us who have a story of just making it or crossing through that day where we didn't know if we would make it, we did it because somebody else came to the plate. Maybe it was small, maybe it was giant, but there was somebody else. And I'm old enough now to know when I'm in a place where I don't know if I'm going to make it, or I can't handle it, whatever it is, that's usually a sign I'm not asking for help, or I'm not asking for enough help. And here's what's critical now that I've learned that. I want to make sure there's somebody to ask for help. And if I haven't invested in developing those relationships, maybe eating noodles with Larry by a lake, then I don't have Larry to call upon. And that's community intelligence.